Billions in tax money just vanished. It's a total state failure. Let's break it down.
I started to see all these transportation companies going around, and it was always a Somali driver. And I said, well, that's great. They're out there transportation, contributing, but they never had a passenger, never, ever once. And I said, well, what is all this transportation? What are they doing? So then I found out that in Minnesota, they have something called non-emergency medical transportation. So this is going to the dentist's office, therapy, whatever it might be. And I said, well, how many of these companies are there? And the research came back that there are 1,020 of them, and more than 800 of them are Somali-owned. Nobody from the state of Minnesota ever cross-checks to see if any rides were ever actually provided. All they did was write the check.
The paper trail for this massive grift leads us to a quiet, unassuming office where a man named David is finally pulling back the curtain. What he's found isn't just an irregularity, it's an industry. David's data shows a staggering reality. Out of more than 1,000 non-emergency medical transport companies registered in Minnesota, a massive majority, over 800 of them, are tied to one specific group, largely within the Somali community. These aren't thriving local businesses. They're described as little more than shells, just empty vessels built for the sole purpose of siphoning off the public coffers. As David stands among his maps and evidence, the weight of the betrayal is clear in his voice. He's pointing at a system so fundamentally broken that state officials allegedly just kept cutting checks without ever verifying if a single ride actually happened. It was an automatic ATM for scammers, and you were the one filling it up. This isn't just a policy failure. It's a total betrayal of every hard-working citizen in this state. The evidence is haunting. Ghost fleets of vehicles roaming the streets with 0 passengers, while the meters keep running on your dime. The visuals are honestly eerie. Footage shows white vans and SUVs cruising through the frozen streets of Minneapolis, draped in medical transport logos. But the windows tell the real story. They're empty. No patients, no equipment, just a driver racking up miles for a GPS trail. Investigators have been watching these ghost runs for months, and the pattern is sickeningly clear. They drive the routes, they log the miles, and then they send you the bill for a service that never existed. This is the Feeding Our Future playbook applied to logistics, a business model that relies on the state's refusal to actually enforce its own laws. Critics are sounding the alarm that this is exactly what happens when mass migration meets a limitless, unmonitored welfare state. When you kill the barriers to entry and delete the consequences for fraud, you're basically inviting people to dismantle your social fabric for profit. Minnesota has become a sanctuary for high-level financial crime. Every empty van you see is a stolen opportunity for a veteran who can't get to a checkup, or a senior left shivering on a corner while scammers collect a bounty for transporting a phantom. This transport scandal is just one thread in a much larger, uglier tapestry of corruption. Think back to the Feeding Our Future disaster, where over $250 million meant to feed hungry kids was diverted into luxury cars and overseas real estate. The common denominator? A total collapse of leadership at the top of the state government. They ignored every red flag, shut down the skeptics, and let this fraud metastasize like a cancer. But the era of looking the other way is hitting a brick wall. With figures like Kash Patel stepping in, the free ride is over. We're seeing a massive push for full-scale audits and, more importantly, the total neutralization of these fraud networks. This goes way beyond money. It's about whether the American system can even survive. If a small, coordinated group can engineer the theft of billions, the social contract is dead. This is a head-on collision between traditional American values of honest work and a new paradigm of parasitic exploitation. The fallout is going to be massive, legal, political, and for those who abused our trust, it might just mean the irreversible loss of their right to even stay in this country. The time for polite inquiries ended a long time ago. People are done being patient. If you look across social media, you'll see nothing but raw, unadulterated outrage. Citizens are demanding a total freeze on payments to these entities right now. They want the books opened, and they want to see these scammers in handcuffs, not just a courtroom. This is a moment of truth for the entire American administrative state. Will they protect the con artists, or will they finally protect the taxpayers? Federal investigators are moving in, and the pile of evidence has become impossible to ignore. We're looking at a wave of denaturalizations and deportations for anyone who built a life here on the foundation of systemic theft. The message is finally being sent. The American people are finished being the silent financiers of their own national decline. We're going to be right here watching every move these investigators make. We'll document every step and make sure the truth isn't buried under a pile of bureaucratic excuses. The era of the automatic check is dead. The era of accountability is here. Stay vigilant. The fight for our resources and our future is only just beginning. Ending.
This report is complete, but the fight is just beginning. Subscribe now to stand with us.